He thought I was in the guest room, rebuilding. After 47 years, he was used to me cooling off. He confused my silence with agreement. He didn't know I was only building one thing, his ending. Rage is for the young. I had no time for that. I chose silence and a calendar. He was in the den. I knew he was. The muted rhythm of the cable news anchors was a sound I could map with my eyes closed. For 47 years, Arthur had never missed the evening report. He was sitting in his worn burgundy recliner. The laptop was open on his lap. I could see the blue light of the screen reflecting on his glasses. He was scrolling through stock tickers while the television shouted at him. He thought I was in the guest room. He thought I was cooling off. He thought I was rebuilding. 3 days ago, we had an argument. It was about the new landscaping, or perhaps it was the property taxes. The subjects always blurred together. They were never the real point. I had said, "I can't do this anymore." My voice was low. I did not raise it. He waved his hand. It was a gesture of impatient dismissal. "Fine, Ilara, go rebuild. You always do." He meant rebuilding my composure, rebuilding my tolerance for the small space he allowed me. He thought I was tending to my emotions, just as I tended the bougainvillea in our National City backyard. He thought I would come out when it was time for dinner. He confused my silence with agreement. He always had, but I was only building one thing, his ending. I was not in the guest room. I was at the kitchen table in the dark. The tile floor was cold under my feet. The only light came from my tablet. Arthur believed I used this for recipes and word games. He had bought it for me, a toy to keep me occupied. He did not know I had a better understanding of its functions than he did. This was not fueled by rage. Rage is loud and frantic. It is for the young who have time to burn things down and start over. I had no time for that. My actions were powered by distance and timing. I chose silence and a calendar. My work was not in this house, surrounded by the familiar smells of old books and his coffee. My work was in San Diego. I looked at the tablet. I had a new secure email account. I had a digital locked folder. Inside that folder were scans. 47 years of scans. I had scanned them myself late at night for months. I used the new desktop scanner I told him I needed for organizing the grandchildren's photos. He taught me how to use the cloud to store those photos. He never imagined I would use it to create an archive of every financial statement, every deed, and every joint filing since 1984. He forgot that the person who manages a household, the automatic payments, the insurance policies, the medical directives, is the person who understands how everything is connected. I was the one who connected it all, and I was the one taking it apart. Piece by quiet piece, I checked my digital calendar. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The entry said, Dr. Alvey, cleaning. Arthur would not question it. He never looked at my calendar. If he did, he would not call the dentist. He never called anyone. My appointment was not with a dentist. It was with a lawyer in a high-rise office in La Jolla. I had already paid her retainer from a credit card he did not know I had. I had opened it using my maiden name 2 years ago. I looked at the bus schedule. The 929 bus stopped 3 blocks away. It would take me straight downtown. From there I could transfer. I would not take my car. The car had a tracking device for safety, he said. He liked to know where I was. Each day brought me closer to what he never expected. The final item on my calendar was not an argument. It was a flight number. I sat there for another hour. The only sounds were the house settling, the faint tick of the kitchen clock, and the constant murmur of the television. Arthur never moved. When he woke up, there would be no scene. No smashed plates, no tear-stained letter. There would just be absence. Later, the Wi-Fi password would not work. The automatic transfer to the mortgage account would fail. The digital photos of our life together would simply be gone from the shared drive. He would be left alone with his news reports and his stock tickers. And in that curated silence, he would finally understand that he lost something. He lost the woman who, for nearly 50 years, had done all his rebuilding for him. I stood up. My knees ached. I went to the hall closet and quietly took my light coat from the hook. I walked through the garage, out the side door, and down the driveway to my car. I opened the trunk and placed the coat inside, next to a small packed duffel bag. He would not see me take it in the morning. I closed the trunk. The click was soft, but it sounded final. The alarm went off at 6:30. The sound was sharp in the dark. Arthur grunted and hit the snooze button. He always hit it twice. I was already awake. I had been awake for hours. I slid out of bed. The floor was cold. I went to the kitchen and started the coffee maker. The machine gurgled to life. This was the routine. This was the sound of our mornings. Arthur came out 20 minutes later. He wore his gray robe. He went straight to the coffee maker and poured a cup. He did not speak. He picked up his tablet from the counter and sat at the table. He started reading the financial news. I made toast. I put a plate with 2 slices and a small jar of marmalade in front of him. He tapped his screen. I sat across from him with my own cup of coffee. It was black. I watched him for a moment. He was reading about interest rates. His eyes moved quickly. He did not see me. He only saw the numbers. "I have my dental cleaning this morning," I said. He did not look up. "All right. It's at 10. "Fine, Alara," he said. He sounded annoyed. I had interrupted his reading. "Just be back by 5. The Garcias are coming for dinner." I stopped. I had forgotten about the Garcias. It did not matter. "I will be back," I said. I went to the bedroom and dressed. I chose comfortable shoes and a simple blouse. I put my hair up. I looked in the mirror. I saw my own face. It looked tired, but my eyes were clear. I grabbed my purse. I checked to make sure my tablet, my wallet, and my own set of keys were inside. I did not take the car keys from the hook by the door. I walked back through the kitchen. Arthur was still reading. "I'm leaving," I said. He waved his hand. I walked out the front door and closed it softly. I did not lock the deadbolt. He was home. I walked down the driveway past my own car. The duffel bag was still in the trunk. It was not for today. Today was just paperwork. I walked 3 blocks. The air was cool and smelled like damp pavement. I reached the bus stop on the corner. The 9:29 bus arrived at 8:40. The doors hissed open. I climbed the steps, paid my fare, and sat near the front. The bus smelled like exhaust and disinfectant. I sat by the window. I watched the neighborhoods change. The small houses of National City, with their chain-link fences and bright gardens, gave way to the wide, gray roads of downtown. I got off at the transit center. The place was loud. People rushed past me. I was just an old woman in the crowd. I found the stop for the bus to La Jolla. This bus was cleaner. It was half empty. It took me north along the coast. I could see the water. It was bright blue and flat. I got off at a street lined with tall glass buildings. They reflected the sky. I checked the address on a piece of paper in my purse. I found the right building. The lobby was silent. The floor was polished stone. A woman sat at a large, curved desk. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the 19th floor. The elevator moved quickly and made no sound. The doors opened onto a carpeted hallway. The law office was at the end. The name on the glass door was not Dr. Alvi. I went inside. A young man at the reception desk looked up. "I am Alara Vance," I said. "I have a 10 o'clock appointment with Ms. Wren." "Yes, Mrs. Vance, please have a seat." I did not sit. Ms. Wren came out almost immediately. She was tall and wore a dark suit. She did not smile, but her eyes were professional. She shook my hand. Her grip was firm. "Mrs. Vance, thank you for coming in." She led me to a conference room. The window looked out over the ocean. I did not look at the view. We sat at a long, dark wood table. "I have the documents prepared as you requested," Ms. Wren said. She placed a stack of papers in front of me. I pulled my tablet from my purse, and I have the documentation you asked for. I logged into my secure cloud drive. I turned the tablet and showed her the files. The folders were organized by year. Here is the archive: 47 years of financial statements, property deeds, tax returns, investment portfolios. Ms. Wren looked at the screen. She scrolled through the files for a full minute. She looked up. Her eyebrows were slightly raised. "You have been very thorough." "Yes," I said, "I have. These are the petition for dissolution, the division of assets, and the restraining order for the accounts." "Do not file them yet," I said. My voice was steady. "I will give you the signal. It must all happen at once. The timing is important." "I understand," she said. "The bank transfers will be immediate upon filing, but you need a new private account to receive the assets." "That is my next stop," I said. "The bank in North Park. I need the certified copies of these preliminary documents to open the trust account." Ms. Wren nodded. She gathered several pages and stamped them. She placed them in a heavy official envelope. She pushed it across the table. "This is what you need for the bank." I picked up the envelope. It was thick. It was heavier than I expected. I left the glass tower in La Jolla. The sun was high and bright. It made my eyes water. I walked back to the bus stop and sat on the bench. I held the heavy envelope on my lap. I did not open it. I just felt its weight. The bus arrived. It was quiet, like the law office. I rode it back downtown. At the transit center, I transferred. The next bus, the one heading inland to North Park, was crowded. It smelled like diesel and stale food. I had to stand holding the cold metal rail. My shoulder ached. I got off on University Avenue. The street was loud. Music played from open storefronts. Young people walked quickly, talking into their phones or to each other. They wore ripped jeans and carried backpacks. I passed a brewery with its big doors wide open. The smell of hops and yeast filled the air. I walked past bright paintings on the walls of buildings. I found the address. It was not a big bank. The sign said, Trident Private Bank. It was a small office tucked between a record store and a taco shop. I went inside. It was cool and silent. A man in a suit sat at a desk. He looked up. He was young. A small nameplate on his desk said, Mr. Hassan. "I am Alara Vance," I said. "I have an appointment at 11:30. "Yes, Mrs. Vance." He stood up. He was polite. "Please come in." We sat in his small glass office. It was clean. "I am here to open the trust account we discussed by phone," I said. I pushed the envelope from Ms. Wren's office across the desk. He opened it. He read the documents carefully. He looked at the official stamps from the lawyer's office. He nodded. "Yes, this is all in order. The account will be structured as per the attorney's instructions." He turned his computer monitor toward me. "I just need you to confirm the details." I read the screen. My name, my date of birth, the legal structure. It was all correct. "We will need your initial deposit," he said. I took a cashier's check from my purse. It was for $5,000. It was money I had saved. Cash, taken out slowly, over years. From the grocery allowance. From the small dividends from stock my father left me. Arthur called it my hobby money. Mr. Hassan took the check. He typed on his keyboard. A small printer on his desk whirred. He handed me new papers. "Please sign here and here." I signed Alara Vance on every line. My hand was steady. "It is done, Mrs. Vance," he said. He handed me a thin, dark blue folder. It held the new account numbers and a temporary bank card. "Welcome to Trident." I put the folder in my purse. I left the bank. The new folder felt secure. I walked down the block to the cafe. The one I had found before. It had concrete floors and loud music. The air smelled burnt like dark coffee. Every table was full of young people with laptops. I ordered a chamomile tea. The young woman at the counter had blue hair. She did not look at me. I found a small table in the corner. I was invisible here. I was just an old woman with a cup of tea and legal folders. I took out my tablet. I opened my secure calendar. I connected to the cafe's public Wi-Fi. It was not safe, but I had my own protection. I opened my new banking app. I logged in. I linked the new Trident account. I set up the alerts. Then I took the papers from the new blue folder. One by one, I scanned them with my tablet's camera. They uploaded to my secure cloud drive. I checked the archive. The new bank files were there, alongside the old ones. I looked at my digital checklist. Lawyer, done. New account, done. Asset archive, done. I looked at the next items. The utilities, the internet service, the shared credit cards. To change those, I would need to access Arthur's main computer. I knew his password. He wrote it on a yellow sticky note and kept it in his top desk drawer, Arthur 123. He never changed it. I looked at the clock on my tablet. 2:40 p.m. The journey home would take over an hour. Arthur expected me back by 5. The Garcias were coming for dinner. I had to go back. I had to buy groceries for the dinner. I had to chop vegetables. I had to pretend I was the same woman who had left that morning. I closed the tablet and put it away. I had to go home and lie. I took the bus back toward National City. The bus was hot and slow. The sun slanted through the dirty windows. The afternoon traffic was heavy. I got off at the Vons on Plaza Boulevard. The automatic doors slid open. The blast of cold air smelled like refrigerated plastic and roasted chicken. I got a cart. Its wheels squeaked on the linoleum. I moved through the aisles. Lettuce, tomatoes, a rack of lamb, red wine. I looked at the prices. I looked at the other shoppers. A young mother with 2 tired children. An old man, smaller than me, checking soup cans. I paid in cash. I always kept cash back from the grocery money Arthur gave me. I walked the last 6 blocks home. The plastic handles of the grocery bags cut into my fingers. My arms ached. I let myself in through the kitchen door. It was 4:50 p.m. The house was quiet, except for the low murmur of the television from the den. "Alara?" Arthur called. His voice was muffled. "Yes, Arthur." "I'm back? Did you get the wine?" "Yes." I put the heavy bags on the counter. I felt a deep exhaustion, a tiredness in my bones. But I could not rest. I unpacked the food. I washed the lettuce. I seasoned the lamb. I set the table in the dining room. I used the good plates. I did everything I had done for decades. The routine was mechanical. My hands knew the motions. The doorbell rang at 6:30. I smoothed my blouse and went to the door. Jorge and Maria Garcia. They were Arthur's friends. "Alara, you look wonderful," Maria said. She kissed the air near my chin. She smelled like strong perfume. "Maria, Jorge, welcome. Come in, come in." Arthur boomed from behind me. He was smiling. He had changed into a clean, button-down shirt. "What are we drinking?" We sat in the living room. Arthur poured the wine I had just bought. He talked about the economy. Jorge talked about his new golf clubs. "It's all in the weighting of the club head," Jorge said, making a swinging motion with his arm. Maria showed me photos of her grandchildren on her phone. "This is Leo. He just turned 2. Isn't he precious?" "How lovely," I said. I smiled. My face felt stiff. We ate at the dining room table. The lamb was cooked perfectly. Arthur told a story about a bad investment he avoided. "This man, completely reckless," Arthur said, cutting his meat. "No foresight." "You always had the foresight, Arthur," Jorge said, raising his glass. I ate slowly. I watched the clock on the dining room wall. 8:15, 8:30. The conversation was a steady hum, like a machine. I refilled their water glasses. I cleared the salad plates. I was a part of the room, like the furniture. "Jorge," Arthur said, pushing his chair back. The legs scraped the wood floor. "I want to show you that portfolio I mentioned. And I have a new bottle of scotch that just came in." "Now you're talking," Jorge said. They stood up and went to the den. The den where Arthur watched television, not his office. The office was separate. The door to the den closed. "Oh, Alara, that was delicious," Maria said. She started to stack the plates. "Let me help you with these." "Thank you, Maria. That's very kind." My heart was beating fast. This was the chance. "If you could just take them to the kitchen counter, I'll be right there. I just need to use the guest bathroom first." "Of course, dear," she said. She picked up the stack of plates and carried them toward the kitchen. I heard the swinging door to the kitchen thwack closed. I did not go to the bathroom. I went down the hall in the other direction, toward Arthur's study. His real office. The door was closed. I turned the knob slowly. It was unlocked. I slipped inside and closed the door, leaving just a small crack open. The room was dark. The only light came from the street lamp outside the window. The room smelled like leather, old paper, and the faint, sweet smell of his pipe tobacco. I went to his large wooden desk. I did not turn on the lamp. I sat in his heavy leather chair. It was too big for me. I opened the top desk drawer. The drawer runners were silent. I felt inside, past the pens, the checkbooks, the paper clips. My fingers brushed the small square paper. The yellow sticky note, I pulled it out. I did not need to see it to know what it said. I turned on the computer tower. The fan inside started to hum. The monitor glowed, flooding the dark room with blue light. The login screen appeared. I typed ARTHUR123. I hit the enter key. The desktop appeared. It was cluttered with icons for stocks and bank websites. I heard their voices from the den down the hall. Arthur was laughing. I heard Maria in the kitchen, running the water in the sink. I had minutes. I opened the browser on his computer. I went to the gas and electric company website. I clicked Manage Autopay. It showed our joint checking account. I clicked Change Payment Method. I pulled my tablet from my purse, which I had left on the floor by the door. I balanced it on my lap and opened my secure document file. I found the new Trident Bank routing number. I started to type the numbers into the website on Arthur's computer. The study door clicked open. The door clicked. I froze. Ilara? It was Arthur. His voice was not loud. It was sharp with annoyance. He stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the hall light. I closed the tablet on my lap. The screen went dark. My hand was still on his mouse. The blue light of the monitor lit my face. What in the world are you doing? He stepped into the room. He did not turn on the light. Arthur. My voice was a whisper. I tried to make it tremble. You startled me. He looked at the glowing screen. He saw the gas and electric company logo. His eyes narrowed. This is my study, Ilara. Why are you on my computer? I was worried, I said. I looked down. I made myself small. The electric bill. I saw it on the counter this morning. It seemed so high. I thought the autopay. I just wanted to check. He let out a short, impatient sigh. It was a sound I knew well. It was the sound of his superiority. Check, he said. He walked over and stood beside the chair. He smelled like scotch. I handled the bills, Ilara. I have handled them for 47 years. You don't need to worry your head about it. I know, with the rates going up, I didn't want us to be late. I was just looking. His suspicion faded. It was replaced by the familiar, weary condescension. You're going to mess up the settings. You don't know how this works. He reached down and took the mouse from my hand. His fingers were warm. Go on, get up. Maria is in the kitchen by herself. Go. He gestured me out of his chair. I stood slowly. My knees ached from sitting. I did not look at him. I picked up my purse from the floor. I walked past him, out of the dark room. And closed the door, he said. I closed the door. I did not hear it click shut. I heard the sound of him sitting in his chair. I heard the click of the mouse as he took control. I walked to the kitchen. My heart was a stone. It was beating hard, but it felt heavy. It was too close. Maria was at the sink, rinsing the dessert plates. The water was running. There you are, she said, turning. She smiled, but her eyes were concerned. Are you all right, dear? You look pale. I'm just tired, I said. I picked up a dish towel. A long day. You do too much, Ilara. She handed me a wet plate. I began to dry it. My hands were shaking. I gripped the towel tightly to hide it. The plate was smooth and cool. Arthur is so lucky to have you, she said. He'd be lost. Jorge is the same. They have no idea how anything gets done. I just nodded. I dried another plate. And another. We heard the den door open. We heard Arthur and Jorge laughing. They came into the kitchen. Well, Jorge said, it's time for us to head out, Maria. Arthur, Ilara, thank you. A wonderful meal, as always. We walked them to the front door. The air outside was cold. "Good night," Maria said, squeezing my arm. "Take care of yourself." "Good night," I said. The door closed. Arthur locked the deadbolt. The sound of the lock turning was loud in the silent house. "I'm going to bed," he said. He did not look at me. He was still annoyed about the study. He walked down the hall to our bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen. I cleaned the last pot. I wiped the counters until they were dry. I turned off the light. I went to the guest room. I sat on the edge of the bed. I waited. I waited for an hour. I heard him go to the bathroom. I heard the water run. I heard the house settle. Then I heard the sound I was waiting for. The low, rhythmic snoring. He was asleep. I took my tablet from my purse. I went to the kitchen. I sat at the table in the dark. I could not use his computer, but I had his password. I could log in as him from my own device. He would never know. I opened my browser. I typed in the gas and electric website. I clicked the login button. A box appeared. Username. Password. I typed in his username. It was his email address. I typed in the password. ARTHUR123. I pressed enter. The page reloaded. A line of red text appeared under the box. The username or password you entered is incorrect. I typed it again. Carefully. ARTHUR123. The username or password you entered is incorrect. My blood went cold. He had changed it. He had sat at his desk after I left, and he had changed his password. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The red error message glowed on the tablet screen. The username or password you entered is incorrect. I stared at it. The house was silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the sound of Arthur's snoring from our bedroom. He had changed it. He had changed it right after I left his study. I held my breath. I tried to think. He did not know my plan. He could not. If he knew, he would have confronted me. He would have yelled. He would have taken my tablet away. No, he was not suspicious of me. He was annoyed that I had been in his space. He saw me as a child who had wandered into the cockpit. He changed the password not to stop a threat, but to protect the system from my incompetence. He still did not see me, but the result was the same. The digital path was blocked. I could not log into the utilities. I could not change the auto pay on the mortgage. I could not sever the digital lines from inside the house. I looked at my digital checklist. The items I had planned for tonight were impossible. I closed the tablet. I sat in the dark for a long time. The tile floor was cold under my feet. The plan had failed. No, the first plan had failed. Rage would have made me want to smash the tablet. It would have made me want to wake him up and scream. I did not feel rage. I felt a cold, clear focus. I had been strategic. I had to be strategic now. I could not pull the money out from under him silently. This meant I had to act first, and the money would follow. Ms. Wren would have to file the petition. The bank would have to freeze the accounts. It would be loud. It would be a fight, and I could not be here for that fight. I needed a window. I needed him out of the house. He was always here. He was retired. He watched the news. He managed his stocks. He sat in his recliner. I thought about the dinner. I thought about Jorge Garcia. I thought about the conversation. It's all in the waiting of the club head. I stood up. I put the tablet in my purse. I went to the guest room and lay down on top of the covers. I did not sleep. I waited for the alarm. The alarm went off at 6:30. The sound was sharp. Arthur hit the button. I was already in the kitchen, starting the coffee. The routine began again. He came out in his robe. He poured his coffee. He sat at the table with his tablet. He did not mention last night. He just grunted when I put his toast in front of him. He was still annoyed. I sat across from him. "Arthur," I said. My voice was calm. He looked up. His eyes were wary. "I'm sorry about last night," I said. "You were right. I shouldn't have been in your study. I get worried. That's all." He looked at me over the rim of his glasses. He took a sip of coffee. He was deciding whether to trust me. "It's handled, Ilara," he said. He was dismissive. "I know," I said. I looked down at my hands. I felt bad. "You had such a nice time with Jorge. I feel like my worrying, it spoils things. You should enjoy yourself more." You should go golfing with Jorge. He put his tablet down. Golfing? Yes, he was talking about his new clubs. You two should go. You haven't played in months. You deserve it. I was his wife. The one who worried about him. The one who managed his social life. The one who encouraged his hobbies. A slow smile spread on his face. He liked this idea. His annoyance from last night was gone. I had put myself back in my small safe box. Torrey Pines, he said. He's been wanting me to play Torrey Pines. You should call him, I said. He picked up his phone from the table. He dialed. Jorge, Arthur. Yes, I'm calling about that. You free tomorrow? 10 a.m. at Torrey Pines sounds good. I took his plate and walked to the sink. My back was to him. I closed my eyes. Torrey Pines was far. With the drive there, the game, and the lunch after, he would be gone for at least 5 hours. He hung up. It's set. Tomorrow at 10. That's wonderful, dear, I said, my voice warm. I went about my day. I went to the grocery store. I bought chicken. I watered the bougainvillea. I was the perfect invisible wife. That night, after he was asleep, I went to the guest room. I did not get my tablet. I went to my closet. I had a locked box on the top shelf. It held my mother's jewelry. I took it down. I took my passport from my desk drawer. I took the small tin where I kept my cash savings. I went to the garage, out the side door, to my car. The duffel bag was still in the trunk. I opened the bag. I placed the jewelry box, the passport, and the tin of cash inside. I zipped it shut. I went back inside. I sat at the kitchen table. I opened my tablet. I opened my secure calendar. I made a new entry for the next day, Tuesday, 10 a.m. The entry said, final cleaning. Then I opened my secure email. I wrote a new message. It was to Ms. Wren. The signal is tomorrow at 10 a.m. File everything. Execute the plan. I will be out of the house. I will not be returning. I hit send. Then I turned off the tablet. I sat in the silence. The clock on the wall said 2:13 a.m. I had 8 hours. The alarm went off at 6:30. I was already dressed. I had not slept. I went to the kitchen and made the coffee. Arthur came out not in his robe, but in his golfing pants. He was in a good mood. Morning, he said, pouring his cup. It's going to be a beautiful day at Torrey Pines. Not a cloud in the sky. That's wonderful, dear, I said. I put his toast in front of him. He ate quickly, checking the golf course website on his tablet. Tea time is 10 sharp. Jorge is meeting me there. Do you have everything? I asked. Your shoes? Your hat? Yes, Alara. They're in the car. He finished his coffee and stood. I'll be back late. Probably after 6. Don't wait for me for dinner. All right, I said. He went to the garage. I heard him open his car trunk, moving his golf bag. He came back to the kitchen door. See you tonight. Have a good game, Arthur, I said. I smiled. He gave a distracted wave and pulled the door shut. I heard the garage door opener hum. I heard his car engine start. I heard him back out of the driveway. Then it was silent. The house was completely still. I looked at the kitchen clock. It was 9:15. I walked through the rooms. I went into the den. The burgundy recliner was empty. The television was off. I went into his study. The desk was neat. The yellow sticky note was gone from the drawer. I had checked last night. He had thrown it away. I went back to the kitchen. I left my old cell phone, the one he knew about, on the counter. I had already turned off its location services. I picked up my purse. My tablet was inside. My passport was inside. My car keys were in my hand. I looked at the clock. 9:59. I waited for the minute to change. 10 o'clock. I walked into the garage and closed the door to the kitchen behind me. I got into my car. The duffel bag was in the trunk. I pressed the button for the garage door. It rolled up, letting the bright morning light in. I backed out of the driveway. I did not look back at the house. I drove toward the 805 freeway. I headed north. At 10:01, the phone I left on the kitchen counter began to buzz. A text alert from the joint bank account. An attempted transfer has been blocked. An email notification from Ms. Wren. Filing confirmed. Another alert. Account access has been suspended pending legal review. The phone buzzed again. And again. The digital cascade had begun. At that same moment, miles away, Arthur was standing at the first tee at Torrey Pines. The grass was green. The ocean was blue. He was laughing at a joke Jorge made. His own phone, in his golf bag, began to vibrate. He ignored it. It was his turn. He swung. The phone vibrated again. And again. Annoyed, he pulled it from the bag. He saw the bank alerts. Account frozen. He saw an email from a law firm he did not recognize. He opened it. He read the subject line, Vance vs. Vance, petition for dissolution of marriage. He tried to call his bank. His access code failed. He tried to log into his portfolio. Password incorrect. He called my number. In the empty house, the phone rang on the kitchen counter. It rang and rang and rang. No one answered. I was at the San Diego International Airport. I had checked my duffel bag. I was through security. I sat at gate 41. I bought a cup of chamomile tea. I took my tablet from my purse and connected to the airport Wi-Fi. I saw the notifications. I saw the string of missed calls from Arthur. I saw a new, secure email from Ms. Wren. It had 2 words. It is done. I looked out the large window at the airplanes. There was no scene. There was no rage. There was just the quiet hum of the terminal. He was alone now. He was in his car, or perhaps still on the golf course, discovering that the scaffolding of his life was gone. He was left with his accounts, and he could not access them. The boarding announcement started. We are now boarding Flight 212 to Seattle. I closed the tablet. I finished my tea. I stood up and I got in line.